delay.
Chat, we're almost an entirely a minute early, and there is actually a chat this week. Sometimes there's no chat, and we say chat anyway. And yeah, we're going to start with hardware news, which is weird, but that's because I'm just back from a hardware event.
Why don't you tell them about the thing you're drinking and how you described it to us just now?
Well, I had to put the giant Framework laptop up here. This is Framework 16, and there's detritus on my tea. It looks like something bad has happened to my tea. And I was like, don't worry, that's just nut dust. That was not a clear enough explanation. It's walnuts. I've been eating walnuts.
Drinking the walnuts, as it turns out.
And there's some walnut dust on my tea.
Pulverized.
Now that we've cleared that out.
Well, spiral out.
People should know.
Also bet that my gain wouldn't be sufficient. $5. I would like my $5 now, please. Thank you.
There's a reason we did 4:15. The original was supposed to be 4, and I was like, I'm going to say 4:15.
That was a good move, as it turns out.
And the announcement, because we're never on time.
Mondays are always just pure chaos around here. I do the best I can with what I've got. Which is what this program is going to be. Isn't that right? Isn't that exciting? Chat, you should let your friends know also. All of you here that are like on the early squad, like retweet, and I posted a thing and should be good, and everybody's saying, well, howdy. So
hello. I see a British flag in the chat.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll encourage you to like and share, unlike all the other voices.
Hello from Ireland. And also super chats we'll read at the end of each section. There's 3 sections. So normally the news we do, links with friends, we do 3 times a week. This is going to be everything all at once. So you're in for like a 2-ish hour stream.
We will read donation messages between episodes as well. Sections, I guess.
It's a little presumptuous.
Well, we'll try.
What if there aren't any?
That's true. Well, we already got one. So
I'm not 100% sure that I got through all of the nonsense stories because they were more categorized than they usually are.
I like to go into nonsense I just like to raw dog nonsense. I like to not know anything and then just be surprised.
We've learned that's not what that means anymore. Right?
Well, I've heard different variations of it, so I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
Neither apply.
Oh my goodness!
All right, well let's just get this out of the way. Oh no!
Oh no! Can you not switch?
There it goes.
It's reversed in this version, which is the worst possible. Also, we're superimposed.
Yeah. So AMD Zen 5 architecture reveal: Ryzen 9000 AI and Ryzen AI 3000 deep dive. This is from Hot Hardware. They've got a write up of this. I'm going to post an interview with Mahesh later. But basically, it's like, here's Zen 5. Zen 5 is coming soon. It's going to be out by July 31st. And this is the next generation, which looks like a pretty decent IPC uplift and some clock improvements and a lot of exciting stuff to look at.
I would like to call out whoever lit the stage in this photo, because they all have sort of a heavenly glow about them. And I bet that took a lot of engineering to get right. So props to the event organizer.
There's really like no reason to switch now because we're already there.
I know you can't take a drink or pick your nose between stories.
I mean, I probably wouldn't pick my nose in front of you guys anyway.
There's a lot of interesting stuff in the slides. Steve, Gamers Nexus, posted a video of the overclocking the liquid nitrogen event, which, there's some world records there, as has come to be the norm for AMD. I worry with this, though, is like, remember when AMD was on the struggle bus? That was like 17 processor generations ago, and they're a boring execution machine at this point. Everybody's like, oh yeah, the new ones are better than the old ones. That's not always a guarantee, especially in 2024 when everything is made out of awful. But it looks like everything is better. They also talked a lot about mobile and like Zen 5 on mobile and battery life improvements, blah, blah, blah. We could be entering a weird spot. Those ARM laptops that just launched with amazing battery life, they may have an x86 Challenger that also has good battery life, because those are basically the only things that were good about the ARM laptops, is that it was good battery life. Like, pretty much the only thing.
Let's test your sycophantism. How are you going to convince me to early adopt, considering this?
AMD reveals 4 new AM5 chipsets, but they won't be ready for Ryzen 9000. So they're doing a motherboard refresh. And what this headline means is that you can't buy the new motherboards at the same time as the new chips, because the motherboard makers aren't ready. But the good news is that there's not really a ton of changes for the new motherboards versus the new chips.
So we shouldn't buy new motherboards then.
You don't have to. You totally don't have to. You can get a good deal on an older motherboard. One of the things I like with the new motherboards is they make USB 4 standard, which is PCIe tunneling, which is a Thunderbolt compatible, what you call it. So you could do that. I would be fine. I wouldn't take it personally if you didn't get a new motherboard. You went with it.
I would.
Your handler is going to be mad about that.
I'm looking forward to if we ever get LPCAM DDR5, because that theoretically should allow faster DDR5 memory. There are some improvements around that coming with the 9000 series that we'll talk about a little closer to launch. Because, well, I'm skeptical and I want to actually try it because you're supposed to be able to go fast on memory.
Well, everybody knows in the partisan world that we live in, you can only support one team, and you should support them without question, and you should celebrate when their opponent fails. So it's probably a good day if you're very excited about AMD.
It's weird the timing on this, isn't it? Intel denies RMA request for faulty 13th and 14th gen CPUs with instability issues. And this is weird because these things crop up over time. Like it's not like you get a chip and it's dead. It's like you get a chip and you use it for a while and then it was fine, but then it's less fine. And so there's a lot of confusion and weirdness and problems with that because, if it was working, but then it's not working anymore, but it's still overclocked, does that rise to the level of warranty service? In this case, somebody got an RMA and then the new chip started exhibiting the same problems and then Intel said no. And so I think that there's just a lot of weird stuff going on.
Weird stuff. Definitely one way to describe it. That's 13 and 14 generations, not before.
And that's also weird, isn't it? Don't you think that's weird? I think that's weird.
But it's good news. It's bad news for Intel. What if they have to replace all of those? Because if they do have to replace all of those, it's going to cost them a lot of money. But you know who it's not going to cost any money and actually might make more money for?
AI Frenzy takes Taiwan's TSMC to record peak, puts it in the $1 trillion club.
They're just the prettiest girl at the dance.
Now, TSMC is actually making Intel's new Lunar Lake chips, but not the ones that have problems.
I think Nvidia is slightly prettier.
Oh, it's a controversial, provocative opinion.
I think Nvidia is making some of their stuff at TSMC, a lot of their stuff at TSMC, although Samsung, I think, is still making a fair bit of it.
Well, we're talking about stock price here, right?
Oh,
market cap. But Nvidia has suffered a slight paper cut in comparison with their growth in that, the whole China chip sanctions. And they don't like that, but they're optimistic.
I thought you were going to say Chip Shank, which is an amazing band name. Nvidia forecasts to bounce back in China after they make $12 billion, or to make $12 billion selling GPUs. These are slower GPUs that are aimed for the Chinese market that also sidestep U.S. sanctions. Because if you can't have one GPU that's really fast, you can have two that are half speed, and if your software scales perfectly, that's the same difference.
And here's a crazy one that if you so far have had your head in the sand in terms of the threat of automation on humanity, some of the stuff that wasn't in the headline, but the scariest part was kind of buried here of what's going on over in Korea.
Samsung Electronics Union launches its first strike ever in its 55-year history. We covered this previously. It sounded previously like these guys were looking for one vacation day. They're asking for a little bit more, but it seems wild that Samsung is so anti-demands.
But more importantly, according to this Korea Times, Samsung is saying, yeah, you know what? We really aren't worried about short-term output because it's basically all automated. We don't actually need these people in the short term. So don't worry.
Who will buy your products?
It seems like a game of chicken. A reverse Henry Ford, if you will.
And Samsung may not be able to roll out all of these hot new items, but it seems like actually they can, and it's fine. And they're all going to have AI. Surprise, surprise.
Galaxy Z Fold and Z Flip 6, Watch Ultra, and new Ring are Samsung's AI carriers.
Let's look at disease.
Super spreaders.
The Trojan horse, if you will, that's going to sneak AI into your... Yeah, I mean, if you became dependent on a particular company's AI, isn't that It's like, oh, I have to have the whole Samsung ecosystem in order for everything
That's
to work
what they
together.
want.
I mean, that's the
Apple?
vision.
That's
Yeah.
Apple.
I mean, Google's kind of that way too with how their Apple
Apple's
Suite.
very careful to avoid directly stating that, though.
Well, they weren't careful about their planning when it came to launching a new product. Tim Cook was convinced that this was going to be his one, right? This is his iPhone. He's going to make his mark. His mark has turned out to be not a good one.
Apple's Vision Pro sales are way lower than expected. This might not turn around until it lowers the $3,500 price. Tim Cook's legacy is the modern 2024 version of the Apple Newton.
I don't think, how much do you think they'd have to lower it? I think they'd have to cut it in half maybe to get sales.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who's interested in this. Like no one was interested when it was announced.
What do you think their margin is if they sell that for $2,000?
Considering how much R&D probably went into it, probably not great.
You know what device I'm interested in? I'm interested in a lightweight pair of glasses that I can put on, and then I have two 32-inch 4K displays in my field of vision. That's the device I'm interested in.
Let me stop you right there. Lightweight. No one seems to be able to get that.
Also, so many people are going to drive using that.
They're already driving with the Vision.
The reason I was like a few minutes late was because some idiot was on his phone
Oh, it
at
drives
the
me
turn.
crazy.
Did you see the guy that, like, when the Vision headset came out, there was one of those California YouTubers that got one of the stunt cars, and he got some rando to just sit in the car and pretend like they were driving with the Vision headset on, but it was actually a stunt car that was, driven by wire or pulled by remote, and then people were like looking at it and pointing like, what is going on? It was amazing, just the film of people's reactions.
I would be getting far away from that person. I don't want to be anywhere near that person on the road.
That's disgusting behavior. But not as disgusting as HP has behaved this year. And it seems like for once, they actually got enough of a backlash to change their mind.
HP discontinues online-only LaserJet printers in response to backlash. Instant ink subscription gets the boot too. We've covered this a lot. We've made a lot of fun of it. It turns out that this line in the sand is like the canary in the coal mine for how bad Windows can get before people abandon Windows. And Windows has to get a lot worse than it is now before people start abandoning Windows to be as equivalently bad as HP's online-only LaserJet instant ink nonsense.
So what they're going to do is they're going to actually, because it's the same hardware, they're going to open up so that the stuff that they sold won't have to be continually online. No, they're not. They would never do that.
The crazy thing about this printer is that it wouldn't let you use any ink that was unauthorized. It would automatically expire ink after it was so old, and it would not work if it couldn't phone home and make sure that it was okay to print. Every time you print, it had to call home to say, is it okay if I print?
It's like the North Korea version.
Yeah.
And man, what was it like? I guess it was 2019, 2018 when the 5G craze, every article was 5G.
Yeah.
And some people were like, this is going to revolutionize the world. And other people were like, no, it's going to give us cancer. And we had just constant battles over it. But now, looking in hindsight, what really happened?
New York City's massive Link 5G towers aren't actually providing 5G yet. This is fun because it's been, 2.5 years? 2.5 years. And there's no 5G.
So they built these towers, which some people have accused of looking like tampon applicators.
I could see that.
And they're there. They exist. But inside there's space, rack space for you to bring in your equipment as an ISP or mobile carrier or whatever. And everybody's like, nah.
No.
We're not really interested in that. Remember when we told you that was the future and we hammered home, we got all this federal money? We don't really care.
We got the federal money. We built a prop to use in our scam for getting federal money. But we got the federal money, so we don't actually have to give you better wireless coverage. You'll like your 3G connection. Like you'll use it and you'll be happy with it. Or we'll take that away. This is where we are with the ISPs in America, up and down the spectrum.
And as Krista pointed out, maybe one of the biggest problems with wireless coverage is the fact that people cannot be responsible with it. They do it at the wrong times. They do it too much. And how can we curb that?
A British boarding school will make students use boring old Nokia phones.
What a tragedy that is for them.
First year students at Eton College will only be able to make calls and texts on old cell phones starting in September. I think this is entirely reasonable.
That's like the fancy Royal College, or not college.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Never mind. I spoke out of turn.
This is okay.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of headlines like this.
How you going to become a TikTok influencer? You know how
You got to
they're
do it in your own time. You got to grind.
actually, you know what they're doing is they're forcing you to pull your SIM card in the morning and put it in the Nokia and then switch them back out. I guess they keep the smartphone. What are they going to do about the eSIMs?
Or you could just, continue to rock the Nokia. That'd be fine. Or just have two.
Carry both around.
No, you're going to have two.
Yeah.
But if you were only going to ever be on campus, a Nokia Wi-Fi phone would be fine. So that you don't have to have, all the distraction of a smartphone.
Yeah, but I think they want that.
The distraction
The
of a
students
smartphone?
want it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the students
I mean,
do. The administration doesn't, and the teachers don't, but the students do.
I would say, Mr. Kettle, how are you want to rock a Nokia?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, if I could unplug and not be scared to death that something was going to break, that would be lovely.
You don't need an extra device to do that.
Yeah, I can just put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think these students could do that.
You don't do it either. I bought some earbuds, some wireless earbuds, $4. They have lithium batteries in them. How many people are going to buy those and throw them away, as I'm going to do, when they inevitably fail? All of us. Everybody who bought $4 earbuds is going to do that.
Lithium-ion batteries are a growing source of PFAS and pollution, a study finds. This is the forever chemicals that are just everywhere, it turns out. When we've been throwing lithium batteries away for as long as we have, they're leaching out of the places that we've put them. So they don't just burst into flames, they also burst into flames and leave amazing pollutants behind.
And we're putting them in devices that are like, how can that be sold to me for $4?
That are designed to be just tossed. Yeah.
The next thing that's going to happen is the feds are going to give a bunch of money to some company that is going to say to the feds, we will exist only to recycle these batteries. Please give us money. And then they will take the money and they will also not recycle or dispose of the batteries properly.
You're also not going to convince the consumer
Yeah.
to take those to some drop-off location or something. Again, this is a $4 item. No one has any respect for it. We don't care about the environment.
Because we've been using lead since Roman times, there are some scientists that say that there has already been an evolutionary pressure on us to be able to cope with high amounts of lead. We don't cope well. I mean, obviously there are side effects. So right now, same thing probably happening with lithium batteries if they're going to have thousands of years of use.
What fun mutations will the next generation have?
It'll take a few generations, I think, but vote now with your phones.
And it's been a while since we've crapped on the Cybertruck. It seems like it's
It kind of craps on itself.
Yeah, it's kind of garbage, I guess. I haven't tried it, actually. I can't judge it, but I do know that the media hates it.
Tesla Cybertruck owner finds a new way to chop off fingers in its doors. And it's just because the door, I guess, is sharp where it closes.
Yeah, they're saying, like, if you put your hand on the pillar when the front door closes. But I feel like that's not exclusive to the Cybertruck, is it?
I mean, maybe, though, on other cars, it would just crush your hand and not chop your fingers off.
This guy described the article was it was the first person, the guy who wrote it, his dad, but it sounded a little bit like maybe some seniors struggling too, because he said the dad could not get his head around the fact that there's a button to open the door.
Yeah, well, when we were looking at trucks a few months ago and we were at the car lot, there was a Tesla on the lot and a guy was struggling, trying to figure out how to get in. He was just pawing at the door. And then the salesperson had to come over and show him.
I literally broke every finger on one of my hands except my thumb. Well, four of my fingers, I guess, on one of my hands by closing it in a station wagon door when I was little.
Well, Krista took her dog's tail off.
I didn't do that. My husband did.
Neither of those vehicles were a Cybertruck.
Just the very tip. And she was ready to go right after. She was like, all right, let's go into PetSmart. And we were like, Rue, you're bleeding.
Well, you know who else might be bleeding is Tim Cook's pets, as he's kicked them repeatedly since seeing this headline.
After 2 rejections, Apple approves Epic Games' store app for iOS. The better headline would have been, after Epic makes public 2 Apple tantrums, Apple has finally approved the Game Store app for iOS.
And ads. we've seen that Microsoft and Google, I guess we say Microsoft or Google is in the lead in terms of who can stuff more ads into every orifice of our software.
Probably Google in the lead still.
They're
hard to beat.
They're aggressive, and they don't care how much it affects the functionality of your software.
Google Maps tests how new pop-up ads that give you an unnecessary detour will be taken.
You added a word in there, but we got it.
I was using that on my trips, like show me stuff nearby. Google Maps show me stuff nearby is a lot more useless than it was a year ago.
It's so sponsored. Ad stop.
It's because those people haven't paid the ransom, right? You got to pay that ad money to get on there, and then it'll give you a little button that says you can just add this to my trip, even if it will take you way out of the way.
I like that it's 2.9 in this example as well. 2.9 stars.
Royal Farm's not doing well.
Yeah.
So Google responded to this, and it's like, yeah, that's not a new feature, blah, blah, blah.
We're just testing it.
But it just sounds like nonsense.
Yeah, they're going to bring that back.
And I don't know if I can keep doing it.
I wondered about you when I read this.
It's only $1 for the PC users, but still, I mean, it's not going to stop, right?
Yeah, it's going to keep going.
It's
like
never,
every other service.
It's never going to stop. They tricked us. And I believe we warned you. I don't remember exactly, but they tricked us into giving up physical media. It was a masterstroke. And now we're in the milking phase, or the bleeding phase, maybe is the better way to put it.
Microsoft asks many Game Pass subscribers to pay more for less. So is this the article that has the table where it's like you can pay more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now there's more levels. And you're the same. It's just they did a reverse Netflix here where they took stuff away and also they're going to charge you more. But you can pay even more to get back to where you were. Disappointing.
Don't use it.
I mean, there's a lot of value to it. If you play one game a month, I feel like you get your money's worth. But how long is that going to be true? Also, the game choices are not as good as they used to be. I'm not looking forward to this because the purpose of Notepad is to strip markup from copy paste.
Yeah.
Because everybody else tries to keep it. Notepad is and then if they do the new features, are they going to ruin that?
What about Control-Shift-V? That works operating system.
They got rid of WordPad for this.
Microsoft's Notepad gets spell check and autocorrect 40 years after launch. They did away with WordPad. It used to come with WordPad and Notepad. Notepad was a text editor. WordPad was kind of hinting like it might get some of these features. I like the idea of having a very simple text editor.
Sometimes you just need to write something in a window where you can't accidentally send it so you can proofread it a couple times. That's what I use it for mostly.
Even Vim. Modern Vim with that automatic commenting and automatic indentation. Oh, I hate it. Whoever made that decision, that was a bad decision. That's not what your software is meant to do. And Microsoft is, I think all the big tech companies right now are probably a little politically sensitive, don't you think?
Yeah.
They're not sure where to go on this one. Either one is kind of a dangerous, so I think that's like, no, just shut it all down.
Palestinians say Microsoft is unfairly closing their accounts. Yeah, it's always...
Guy lost his email of 20 years.
Yeah. It's like, don't keep everything. I mean, this is the terrible thing about cloud. Remember when Google was giving you the death penalty? It seems like every couple months we do a story about somebody that unfairly lost access to their cloud accounts and it impacted them in a severely negative way for a long time.
Although it's hard to make the physical media argument here because physical media is, one of its weaknesses is bombs. Mm. And AI continues to take everybody's jobs. It's alarming and astonishing how quickly that is happening. And this one affects us.
AWS App Studio promises to generate enterprise apps from a written prompt. Fortunately, people don't understand how incoherent their written prompts are, so I don't think we're in any real danger, but for trivial applications, this actually could work really well.
And you get a beefy prompt. You have to lay down all these rules about the various documentation and stuff.
And getting a client to agree to that, that's the tough part.
Yeah. Most AIs struggle with lots and lots of rows of text. So it'd be interesting to see how well it does. I guess it can go back and reference that anytime it wants. And Texas, boy, do I feel bad for the Texans because my air conditioner is fully functional. And I'm still hating this heat wave.
It's hot as hell.
It's awful. Those poor people have possibly home damage. Also, no power, maybe some flooding to go, just a little flavor flooding. And when is it coming back? They don't know.
Whataburger app becomes unlikely power outage map after Houston hurricane. So the utility company was not accurately reflecting where it doesn't have power, but with Whataburger, the online ordering thing was almost perfect. As soon as a Whataburger got power, it would come back on and be like, oh yeah, here's a Whataburger.
You think the orange ones are out, or is the gray one? Gray ones are probably
Gray
out,
ones are the
right?
ones
Wow.
that are out.
That's a
It's
lot.
really funny that all the orange are on one side of town, and I'm like, what does that mean? Probably nothing good.
That's where the rich people live.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They actually got the redundant power grid. If you're not fabulously wealthy, you get nothing.
Well, if you are fabulously wealthy, you might have a pair of these, but you'll still get nothing.
Nike is killing the app for its $350 self-tying sneakers. If you've ever seen the Back to the Future movie, this was those sneakers. But now you like without the app, like what are you gonna do? How's this? How is
You
this
trip
supposed to
all
work?
over the place because you can't tie your shoes.
You can still hit the button to do it, but yeah.
Here's what you're going to do. I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to throw them away and put PFAs back into the ecosystem and probably start a dumpster fire.
With all the lithium batteries, yeah.
Just do it.
Well, Nintendo has just done it again, and they're never going to stop doing it as long as someone challenges them.
Nintendo targets Switch emulators Suyu, Nuzu, Yuzi, Torzu, and Sudashi. So these were on GitHub, and Nintendo has asked that they be taken down. It's only a matter of time before Sony notices, and then we have similar problems. These are open source forks of the previously open source Switch emulator that existed before now. We're heading down. This is a dark, dark road.
Yeah, they argue that because it is a fork of code that they've gotten injunctions against, then their injunctions automatically count for these. The court has not ruled on that, but who's going to fight Nintendo? Not GitHub. And the comment section. You can still do it on YouTube, but
now.
how many other websites, right? Everybody's like, why don't you just go to social media so we can control your speech, right? And I can sort of understand where they're coming from here, right? Do you want to try to police the weebs from saying something that can get your website shut down in 50 countries?
Crunchyroll announces the removal of its comments section across all platforms to reduce harmful content. Basically, any user-generated comments, because they have not or user-generated content, because they have some other stuff that's not just comments, but it was features that was designed like, hey, if you like this, I also like this other thing. You should go watch that. All of that is gone.
So you can't curate your anime library based on users. That's kind of a bummer.
And the collapse section, saved it for the end this week. But it's still out there. Some bad news if you're a job seeker in the UK in this industry.
UK digital industry job growth falls to its lowest in a decade. This article talks a little bit about a couple of different industries, but basically, unless you have a specialization, you're screwed.
And as we say, physical media, they've killed it. They've gotten us all to abandon it, and now the subscription pinpricks over and over and over, and you've got one less alternative now.
Redbox is shutting down. Its corporate parent is being liquidated. This is in part because they apparently were renting out more discs than they had copies of, but also they were vastly unprofitable.
I just heard like a scream in Eastern Kentucky from all the people who stop at the Dollar General to get a movie at the Redbox.
Yeah,
on
there's
Friday
a lot
night.
of places in America where your internet just still isn't good enough for Netflix, even with Netflix's awful low bitrate stuff.
Do you think a lot of people are hitting those boxes and just getting everything they can right now, knowing they're never going to send them back?
That's a good point.
I've almost managed to get a full 7-season TNG DVD collection from the flea markets because I was never been willing to pay full retail because the Netflix streaming quality of next gen is awful.
And AI replacing jobs. Remember when that was a myth? I'm never going to stop saying that because I'm so angry that we were gaslit for years by people
gonna
who
happen.
knew the reality.
Intuit is going to cut about 1,800 jobs as it looks to increase AI investments. And I think we also covered that they were killing a lot of their desktop applications as well. It's all cloud-based now. You're going to have to just pay continuously.
They're
Forever.
also talking about fully automated AI doing your taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, the federal government should just be, hey,
We're
this
just
is
going to take your money as
yeah, this is how much you owe. Okay, cool, thanks.
And if you think that's the collapse story that sucks the most this week, you are wrong.
That pun is worth $5 alone. Dyson is going to axe around 1,000 jobs in Britain. Sorry, Dyson. And/or people who...
I do like their vacuums, you know.
You're not going to be able to get a data entry job. I'm sorry.
Could they have not come up with a suction-based verb instead of axe? Siphons, drains.
It would be funny if it was an outsourcing thing. It's like, oh, the jobs have been siphoned to some other country or whatever.
I think they said they still did R&D in UK.
So Spiral Out did actually give us the $5. Thank you. Jonathan Briggs gave us $10. I hope you are happier with your Framework 16 than I am. It's fine. It's just mid. Happy news. I've been pretty happy with it. This is a great laptop for Linux. I've been able to get much better battery life on Linux than I can Windows for whatever reason. Chia says $5. There's not. Colisys says 4 days ago, Maps internationally got me off onto the off the highway onto terrible roads, but it was not actually congested because I ignored it. That's interesting. Bing Bang Bong gave us £5. A long-time viewer, your channel's fantastic. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan P also gave us £5. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Woo!
Now we get to go through, and by we I mean Ryan gets to go through and click all the stories one by one.
Yeah, we gotta get. You got a few minutes to get everything ready, but the chat is decently not unruly. We're doing pretty good. There's a lot of you here. You should.
They're all screaming at each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys. Crit Nature says, according to Buildzoid, the root cause of the Intel CPU's failing is probably the cache in combination with too much voltage. Anyway, have a nice day. I don't know. All I can tell you is that there's a lot of people that are very unhappy that it's been broken for so long.
Is that acceptable if that is the case?
No.
Why? What difference does that make?
I'm genuinely surprised that Intel hasn't come out. You remember the overclock warranty? There was it was like $20, mail in your CPU, no questions asked. We don't care if you blew it when you're overclocking. It was like $20 or $50. And that was all. That was the end of it. It's like, yeah, my chip died. Here you go. We'll give you a one-time. I don't see why they haven't done that already. It's been so long. It seems like that would be the easy button to fix it.
Because they'd have to replace them all.
Yeah, but they used to do that.
Well, I think they've
A lot of
probably
companies
crunched the
used to do that
numbers.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Remember when you used to call people on the phone?
Grandma.
Is it alarming that that maybe there's so many of them that it's just like, oh, I don't know if we should do it. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be all of them, right? Somebody that buys that chip is probably going to push it, right?
I am worried about the number of people that are unwilling to not push their CPU. One of the bug reports I read with a game player was, I'm not willing to run my CPU at a lower frequency because it only crashes in this game. Fix your game. And it's like, you've overclocked your it doesn't work that way.
Well, we're moving into the politics section. And the problem in my mind is that a lot of people have put their identity into the fact that they overclock their CPU. Or they buy a certain brand.
Maybe that's the resistance.
Or they vote for a certain color. I think that's probably the biggest problem we have in this country. But let's start with a bipartisan attempt that does not fall victim to that.
Senators strike a bipartisan deal for a ban on stock trading by members of Congress.
I feel like these keep getting brought up, and they're always bipartisan efforts, and they always get knocked down.
That entire thing reads like they're just jealous of Nancy Pelosi's success. And oh boy, she's up 180%.
But she is not fighting this like she did the previous iterations.
Yeah, probably because people called her on it.
Yeah. Now it says no stock trading for you or your spouse. Her husband is a stockbroker. Maybe he's retired at this point. Because they are ancient.
I mean, even if she stopped trading tomorrow and just cashed out, she has more money than she could spend between now and the rest of her life.
Yeah, that's true of all those ancient politicians, but they don't stop, do they?
That's wild. It's very wild. Thank you, Gabriel Rodriguez. Hey guys, I've moved on to moved to Linux on both my laptop and desktop. Thanks for all the hours of entertainment. You should blog about your successful journey on Linux on the Level 1 forums. Forum.level1text.com. All right, on with the next section. We'll save all the supers till the end. Go.
And the FTC and the FCC, once again, busy. That's been a busy year for them. They're going after something that is definitely an issue.
The FTC study finds dark patterns used by a majority of subscription apps and
There
websites.
were some terrifying numbers in this article. I think it was like 70% or maybe 80% of sites use these.
The bar was low,
Yeah.
but it should be, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
there's
and a
no
lot of this
reason-
stuff's so annoying, and it's like, I know to look for it because I'm a designer. I see that stuff all the time, but like,
We need a stronger term than dark patterns. Like chat, maybe this is something you guys can come up with. Is a much stronger term.
it's a manipulation, a design manipulation.
It's adversarial. People are not ready. It's you know the I've seen alarm, not related to anything technology, but there's a lot of alarming reports that retirement communities are being targeted by thieves. Like it's easy to rob an 80-year-old grandma, which is just
That's always been true.
that is a level of darkness I'm not prepared to think about. And that is how much it's the same level of darkness that is going into website engineering to squeeze money out of people. And it's like literally sociopathic people are designing the user experience. And it's good that our lawmakers are worried about this, but dark patterns doesn't go far enough.
Well,
we need to rebrand the dark pattern word.
Yeah, we need to put at least 10% of the level of effort of thinking about that into the term that we need to. It's like the difference between shell shock and post-traumatic stress syndrome. Shell shock is a much better way to describe that.
or the Department of Defense.
The
And
Department of
War.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And the FTC is actually going after a tech company. That's right. Actually, like just not floating it and seeing what the public thinks about it, but no, just actually shutting it down. But it's not one of the ones you've ever heard of.
No.
It is a blatant example.
The FTC bans anonymous messaging app from hosting underage users.
So, NGL, not gonna lie, is a messaging app where anonymously, I guess you post your picture and then you get anonymous messages. And then,
I think it's like an ask system. So like Tumblr has like an anonymous ask where you can ask someone like, what do you think about this? Or like that kind of thing.
then the responses are anonymous to answer you, except you can't always see them. And it's always just a push to get you to subscribe. But here's the thing, if you subscribe, you still don't get to see them. They give you hints.
About who it is, yeah.
So it was just a failed app. And they were like, God, what can we do to try to save this? Let's manipulate the users. The sad part is it must have worked on some level, right?
Yeah, people were still responding to it, and then they would pay because they wanted to know who asked.
And the parents complained to the FTC, and this was their action.
And boy, the direct text messages from Donald Trump have kicked up lately. Have you guys been getting those? Yeah. And the phone is like, hey, I've detected a scam, but you still beeped to tell me.
Yeah, still interrupted what I was doing with my day.
Like the number of clicks and the number of the amount of distraction is exactly the same if you hadn't done that. But that is not the only kind of scam that is going on right now.
The FCC is going to block the phone company over robocalls pushing scam tax relief program.
This is another one of those where it was just overwhelming, the evidence. These guys, they didn't do the stir shaking thing, but they reported that they did. They said that they were going to deal with this. They did nothing. And so here we go.
They literally became the phone company for scammers.
And that's pretty much what you have to do to get blocked. Anything less than that, they let it slide. And this is a story that's been going on for a long time. We finally have a wrap up. I don't know if there's an appeal possibility here.
The U.S. court rejects challenges to the FCC approval of SpaceX satellites. We covered this previously. There are certain other satellite companies that are trying to undermine SpaceX by just legal maneuvering. This particular legal maneuvering was from Dish, and I really believe that they should have named and shamed Dish in this headline.
Well, they didn't in the headline, but it is in the article. And I thought it was funny because there was Dish and then there was an environmental group. And I was like, wow, you have to really be desperate to hitch your wagon to Dish. But they probably have like a bigger legal team.
Well, the environmental group was maybe linked to Bezos.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of these groups are fun, like the Heart Council or whatever is funded by the food companies. So, there's layers of.
We should be the Big Sugar Council.
As someone who cares about the environment, I understand being a little nervous about not being able to see the night sky if we have too many satellites. So I was like sympathetic, but now it's like, oh, of course it's something shit.
Yeah. Dish Network famously, I mean, they have a product where you can buy satellite internet from them, and they have forever. And they charge $200-300 a month because if you don't have any other choice, you got to get satellite internet. The problem is that that product is now worth zero. And their customers don't necessarily realize that they don't have to be paying outrageous rates for a comparatively anemic connection when they could just get, Starlink.
Plus, Elon Musk says mean things on Twitter. And that's unacceptable.
It's amazing how much more money that Elon Musk would make if he would just go the Howard Hughes route. Can you imagine Howard Hughes with Twitter? Probably a lot like Musk.
Well, we have problems coming up with AI and that kind of thing on the horizon. There's a lot of bad stuff.
Current problems too. Problems everywhere.
It's going to get worse.
In the past.
I don't see it getting better. It's going to be new kinds of problems. I don't think we've seen this before, where the American or global workforce is just invalidated eventually. And the government is getting right on it, but they're focusing on a weird thing. As usual, the government has come up with a solution that they have no idea how to implement. They don't understand the concepts. They don't understand how it all works, but they're just like, no, this is the rule.
The AI-focused Copied Act would make removing digital watermarks illegal. That's a terrible headline. It's basically AI-generated stuff and AI-manipulated stuff, but it really doesn't make sense when you dig into it. It says it's designed to protect journalists and people whose work goes into AI training, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't actually really do that.
Yeah, but it's a nice headline, right? Going into an election. People are afraid of AI. Let's target that. Now, it's amazing that, the voices that have been speaking out against the age verification stuff have laid out exactly why it's a bad idea, why it's difficult to implement, why you can't protect what you upload, or they can't protect what you upload to prove it. Then we actually got the driver's license database breach, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Like, it happened.
Well, the it was sold. Like, you could buy it commercially for years, which we also complained about. And then the hackers got it.
So it's been perfectly illustrated why this is a terrible idea.
Didn't we already do this? Is their headline on Tech Dirt? 20 years after the Supreme Court rejected the age verification law, it takes up a new case. Yeah, so the Supreme Court is like, oh, we think we should revisit what the Supreme Court did now that everybody in the Supreme Court is different. It's like,
So another lawsuit that has been kicked out, and this is maybe a little bit anti-consumer. I feel like we're going to get a lot of these, right? I think training the AI is going to be held to a higher priority than protecting the individuals.
Judge dismisses lawsuit over GitHub CoPilot AI coding assistant. Ooh.
So a lot of people
it's a win
said,
for Microsoft.
A lot of people said, hey, I don't want you training on my code. And Microsoft said, yeah, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah. This is also, there's a couple of really interesting things related to this case, including there's an individual who came up with an algorithm for his PhD, and he has patented it, and the code is on GitHub, but it is not under a permissive license at all. And so he started from a clean slate and used CoPilot to see if he could recreate his algorithm. And CoPilot did recreate his algorithm. So it was very interesting. It suggests that the algorithm was trained on it. But does that invalidate his controls on that algorithm? And the answer is no.
Well, I mean, technically maybe not, but in practice, yes.
If he has a patent on that, then he could sue the bejesus out of anybody that got the generated code for that. At least under current U.S. law.
How are you going to identify him? I don't think he can win in any situation there. And even if he did, what would the legal cost be?
Yeah.
There is some question as to whether or not software can be patented. And that might be one way to attack it. But that seems like the coding assistant's creating a huge nightmare.
Well, creating a huge legal nightmare is something that big tech companies seem to excel at, as we've all seen, though, the terms of service, the fine print, the HP printers that won't work, that you agreed that they won't work unless there's the internet. And over at OpenAI, they must have a really good legal team.
U.S. Financial Watchdog urged to investigate NDAs at OpenAI. This is not the first time their NDAs have been out. Basically, when you leave OpenAI, if you don't want to lose your corporate stock, you can't say anything about them. You just have to keep quiet. So go ahead.
More importantly than that, there's apparently, I don't know if anybody's actually seen this yet, but some of the whistleblowers said there's a section in there that says I'm not allowed to be a whistleblower. I can't talk to a regulator unless I talk to my supervisor first.
Amazon had that in their labor agreement. We learned that from and that's apparently okay. Like that's a thing you can have in there. It's like you can't get whistleblower protection unless you go through the internal process, which involves identifying yourself to your employer as a whistleblower. It's like,
So you can be retaliated against and then spend all your money showing that in court.
but that's on the labor side, not the IP intellectual property side. So there is different. It's not exactly like the Amazon thing.
And I know what you're going to say about this headline. You're going to say, we've seen this a billion times before. I mean, doesn't every agency do this at this point? And basically, yeah, they do. But think about this. That's your money. They're taking money out of your pocket and spending it on this to make sure that they know everything about you.
U.S. Nuke Agency buys internet backbone data.
If they just asked me, I would tell them.
404 has the breakdown of this. This is the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which I didn't even know was an agency, has bought access to NetFlow data. NetFlow, basically, you go to the largest ISPs, like where all of Spectrum or Sprint or AT&T or T-Mobile, where those companies plug into the internet, and they say, hey, can you just split that off, and then we can analyze the flow of data through your network, and we'll pay for that. And that's a thing that's sold commercially.
Yeah, and that's not the feds going straight to the individual entities there. That's a company in the middle who scrapes it all up for you, puts it in a nice package and sells it to you. Again, with tax money. Now, we've seen in the undersea cable world a lot of questionable splits. Like, what could have cut? Here's a clean cut on a cable at the bottom of the ocean. How does that happen? Was that the sharks?
They just chomped straight through it.
I don't think it was. And so that's a big problem. These are very expensive. What do you do?
NATO plans to send internet data to space if subsea cables are cut. I think we just figured out what that classified payload was that SpaceX just launched.
This would be like a redundancy thing and not a primary. But
Do you think when that happens, whoever owns the satellite might take a peek at the NetFlow data?
Yeah. It seems like, and the wild thing, I mean, it shouldn't even. It's madness, absolute madness.
And the copyright battle continues. And as usual, it's not going well for the common man. The copyright holders seem to be in the driver's seat.
Torrent Freak's headline is Anna's archive faces millions in damages and a permanent injunction. This is it's a search engine, but not really. It links to things that infringe, but it also apparently infringes.
This is not like a big decision. They got in contact with one person at Anna's archive, and that person was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't call me again. So this is an absentia ruling. No one's willing to take credit. Oh, I didn't switch back.
oh,
Go right into it.
Z Library admins escape house arrest after a judge approves a U.S. extradition.
So they were in Argentina, right?
yes.
Yeah, this is another one of those cases where these folks have never been to the U.S. Why is the U.S. abducting people from other countries?
This article had a lot of like extra detail. Like they mentioned that they drove up and down the country in a Toyota Corolla, and I was like, okay, I don't know why we mentioned that, but
I think
okay.
that's AI.
I don't know. It was weird.
They were drinking Fresca.
Yeah. I was like, is this an ad? I don't.
Andy Maxwell. And this is also Torrent Freak from Ernesto Vandersar.
Now remember, we have a story later on about how sometimes just having an author name doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And this is the same story, but instead of books, it's a different kind of content.
It's another Torrent Freak article about a popular adult website owner obtains a pirate site blocking order from a U.S. court. This was kind of a wild story to follow because each was accusing the other of stealing the other's content, but it looks like the media company behind the company in the headline has prevailed in this and shown that they have actually been damaged, and they've obtained blocking, an order asking DNS providers to block the other company's sites, which is interesting.
Also interesting that there's now a giant umbrella organization that owns all of these kinds of websites too.
Yeah, they've consolidated. Although maybe there's strength in numbers. Certainly, it seems like they've been able to retain lawyers and fight against chicanery.
Moving over to Europe, and again, not a good day for Tim Cook's dogs. He's got a lot of angst that he needs to take out over these decisions.
Apple settles the EU case by opening its iPhone payment system to rivals. And once again, this story, like, I can't believe that Apple gets away with the level of petulance. And it's like, oh, we've opened the payment system, but we still want to take a percentage for ourselves. And what? That's not how that works. It's like, but you're doing a transaction through an iPhone. We want part of that. It's like AT&T was broken up in the 1980s for less.
Now we have
We
to
don't break
admit,
up companies anymore.
Yeah.
as Americans, we have to admit the EU is way ahead of us in terms of consumer privacy and safeguards, right to repair and all that stuff. But there is another side to that coin of nanny government taking care of everything.
Speed limiter is now mandatory in all new EU cars.
That's coming for the here too.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, this is the intelligent speed assistant. Basically looks at where you are physically and says, wait a minute, the speed limit on this road is this. You can't go more than 5 or 10 kilometers an hour over that.
There's a bug.
It flew away. It's gone forever.
It probably made a horrible noise. I'm sorry. Yeah, so these actually just beep at you. Oh my God. He hates me.
What if it's controlled by a commenter right now? It's a robot bug.
Well, let's explore that technology. It'll beep at you, or it will haptic feedback push against the pedal, or there is one version that just like slowly bleeds your speed off, like you won't notice. They're all optional, and the beeps are not allowed to be persistent. It's only allowed to beep for a certain amount of time.
I want the version where it automatically calls police and it's like, please tell us why we should authorize you to exceed the posted speed limit.
But they do point out in this article that probably what's going to happen here, it's not going to be the beeping that gets you. It's not going to be the pedal fighting you. It's going to be that when there is an event, that's going to be logged to your insurance company.
Yeah. As we have seen in stories that we've covered previously, where the insurance company was just buying the data directly because that was a thing that sold. I just had a vision of, some sort of future thing with your car. Like you're just interacting with AI. Like it doesn't even call, well, it does call the police or it does call your insurance company or whatever, but you're not interacting with a human being because that would be the bottleneck. So the car would just, it's like you're going really fast and it's like, please state the nature of the driving emergency. And it's just, okay, thanks, car.
What if you just told it every time? My wife is in labor at the hospital.
Well, who that might actually be a valid excuse for is a man who never stops having children.
That's a good segue.
And he is also in the crosshairs of the European Union.
Blue checks on X are now bad, the European Union says. And this is on Mashable, and this took me a little, it's just, okay, I guess.
Somehow you're not allowed to have blue checks. It's a weird argument.
I don't know why the EU is involved. I mean, I kind of agree. Like anytime I see someone in a thread and it's got the blue check, I'm like, this person's probably a bit of a moron, but there's no argument. I mean, like there's not a law against being a moron.
It's not something I would pay for.
Yeah.
Elon Musk seemed to, I don't know if it was this story, but on Twitter, he seemed to react to something in the EU. And he said that the EU presented him with a deal where they would not fine him if he agreed to control certain amounts of speech. And he said no. And they said, okay, we're going to fine you. And it's like, that seems like corruption.
But I mean, if letting people spend money on something stupid that might get them judged or might represent them poorly is illegal, where does the EU stand on neck tattoos? And Germany is pulling a page out of the original Trump presidency playbook. They're a little slow here, but okay.
The Reuters headline is Germany in deal to cut Huawei's role in 5G wireless network, sources say. A little slow on the uptake. It turns out 5G wireless networking, maybe not the most amazing in terms of security and architecture.
But we've known that for some time.
Yeah.
And Spain, here's a terrifying story that you got to think like kids are going to be dumb, right?
Kids are going to be dumb and hideously malicious
and mean, and they're going to it's all about fitting in. And if you don't, and if you get screwed up with that, like something that if this happens to you at that age, it could really mess with you, right?
Billy, there's a darkness in you. We're going to have to learn to manage.
How do you fix this? I don't know.
Spain sentences 15 school children over AI generated naked images. 15. So they generated naked pictures of a girl there, and they were all
Their classmate.
yeah, and it was just just
What language model is like, hey, generate me a picture of a naked 15-year-old? And they're like, okay.
They probably don't tell it it's a 15-year-old.
I guess they did, just like create it and then Photoshop the heads on.
yeah.
But one of the mothers said, I saw this, and like if I didn't know exactly what my daughter looked like, I would be convinced by this.
That's very sad. If the kids don't understand the consequences of their actions. Sometimes when I think about this and the other story about, the Nokia phones, I think that, maybe this is a technology. It looks innocent, but you really shouldn't let children play with it. Like, you can play with farm equipment and
You can have a good time rolling around on the hills back behind your granddad's farm, but you could also roll over another kid and kill him.
yeah, exactly. And so,
But that's not even like an accident, right? That's a
Yeah,
very planned.
There were multiple
Yeah.
steps involved in producing those images
how
and then sharing them after. So it's like 2 levels.
we have failed as a society if this is a widespread problem with the maliciousness and indiscretion of children.
Now, here in the U.S., we've never maybe felt the sting as hard as we're feeling right now from a 2-party political system. It really does narrow the choices down. And
Not in a positive way.
even when that's clearly, like not even top million best choices, you still only have the 2 choices. The EU does things slightly different, but it also has its issues.
The headline is Nuisance YouTuber Elected to European Parliament. They have a lot of videos on causing trouble in Japan, and the Japanese people just barely tolerate it.
Can we rebrand our channel to be nuisance YouTubers? Like, never explain what it is. Just put that in our description everywhere.
I certainly feel like I have been unintentionally just trying to get my shit fixed.
And the other thing about it is now within the world of deep fakes and procedurally generated humans, who's real? What's real? Are the videos real? Are the pictures real? Do these people actually exist? We now have to spend time worrying about that.
Reform UK is under pressure to prove all its candidates were real people. Its secret agenda to actually make it hard to elect Count Benface. It's Benface racism.
They point out that because it was a snap election, obviously you didn't have a lot of time to get ready. And some of these people they called paper candidates, which I don't totally understand why you want that. But they were never meant to win or campaign or do anything. They just needed them on the ballot. One of them actually won. And they were like, yeah, look, this guy actually won. He didn't have a picture or anything. Just a placeholder. He won. But they're now going through and they're saying, we believe that some of these were generated and you need to prove that they're not.
We've accidentally elected a foreign government asset.
Oops.
Oops.
And again, Tim Cook, it is not his week.
Reuters' exclusive headline is India antitrust probe finds Apple abused its position in the apps market. Well, yeah, I mean, anybody with a brain and a pulse can look at what's going on with the App Store and how it works for developers and say, this is kind of a raw deal. This feels very much like, the Emperor in Cloud City. Or not the Emperor, but Darth Vader in Cloud City.
We do a lot of stories about them just getting fined week after week after week after week. I would love to see a yearly budget, how much of their profits just go to paying fines.
Shareholders should know that.
Yeah.
Not as much as that 30% was bringing in.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they keep doing it, right?
That 30% is what took them to $1 trillion company status.
And Indonesia, boy, are there some embarrassed people in Indonesia because they were not prepared for the inevitable. But now it's over, maybe?
Indonesia says it has begun recovering data after a major ransomware attack.
They didn't have backups. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a recovery model. What happened was, for whatever reason, the ransomware person got ashamed of it and gave them the key. But they still have to go through the process of decrypting, and it seems like they're not very good at that either.
Oh, that was a freebie.
Oh, you mean pensioners can't get their Oh, man, that's bad. I guess. Okay, here you go. Here's your decryption key, which is good, I guess, but also horrifying.
And we all are about to become, I think everybody's going to have a little bit of not in my backyard, right? Because I want my air conditioner to keep running, and I like clean water. And that might be a problem if your town announces this.
Tokyo residents seek to block building of a massive data center where its air conditioning and clean water is more important than yours.
The Whataburger app, it's just all orange around that area.
So yeah, they are not happy that. Also, I think there was a story, I might have forgot to include it, but one town was complaining that ever since they got a data center, the air quality has been damaged. I'm not sure why that would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Refrigerants, maybe?
To keep it cool.
That wouldn't. Nothing about that makes sense unless it's just stirring up dust in a dust bowl somewhere.
And this one seems like it's Microsoft picking a winner here, but it's actually not. This is a technicality, but Tim Cook probably enjoyed this headline.
Microsoft ordered employees in China to only use iPhones due to security threats.
It's because Android doesn't operate in China. So you can't use the Microsoft Authenticator because there's no app store. And this has been coming for a long time. This is probably going to be the next stage of war, although it'll be robots using them, not humans.
South Korea orders Star Wars lasers to blast North Korean drones out of the sky. This is another long-standing level 1 prediction, like Centacow and, AI stuff.
Centacow's not coming to fruition yet, but one day.
I don't know. We've got some of those Beyond Meat stories, and it's like, this is
Getting
like
close.
step 2 of 30 towards Centacow.
I saw a video where some guy has a YouTube channel where he's got a satellite dish and he pulls in the North Korean. He's close enough, I guess, and just rebroadcast their stuff on YouTube. It's fascinating.
Lasers are definitely the way to deal with drones if you've got an imaging system that can track them and find them quick enough.
This is good enough. It said that, and the laser, obviously, it's only going to be able to generate so much power, 10 to 20 second bursts, but it can stay locked on to a battery or motor based on its optics, which is pretty impressive.
There may be some money in that for us. We could probably put together some software and some motors and stuff to just track stuff like that, and then use a 10-watt laser to proof of concept it.
Well, there might be some money in that, but I'll tell you what, there's definitely some money in central bank digital currencies. Also Orwellian control and misery and maybe the end of humanity. But we're getting them, and there's another name on the list.
Morocco moves to digitize its currency. They see all the benefits of digital currency, and they're not scared of the downsides yet. They need to talk to their friends in Ecuador.
The dirham, I don't know how you pronounce that. But they are a little bit worried that cash is overwhelmingly used by the Moroccans because they don't like paying taxes. And this would definitely stop that.
Enough.
Which might be the real reason that they're getting it. All right, that's the end of the government section.
Woohoo!
Woo! Thank you. All right, there's a bunch of these. Gabriel Rodriguez, thank you. Thank you. I've officially moved my laptop. Scott Stolderer. Scott Stolderer. Love you guys. Thanks for the best show on the tube. Y'all are blowing up. Our pronunciation ability is not improving, though. We got to work on that.
In fact, I think it's getting worse because, last night when we were streaming, Ryan was struggling.
Big 5. French Competition Authority confirms investigation into Nvidia. We covered that last week. Fireship YouTube channel shouted out your Intel vid. Oh, cool. Thanks. Austin Potterfield says, can I get a build along with level 1 text? I really want to build a SAN and a large storage array, but I'm scared to death of buying the wrong thing. Yeah, we can probably work on that. I did a 25 gig video a little while ago that's kind of hinting around that. And I just got a board from China that's pretty cheap that you can order on AliExpress. It seems like it's great if you're happy with 8 hard drives or less. Paulo Affiliate, thank you. Thallo 215, thank you. We've been getting Medicare phone calls on the 911 line at the comm center where I work. So the scammers are accidentally dialing 911 and then try to give you a Medicare scam. That's an impressive level of fail in their programming.
How did I get in the dial list?
Someone is very bad.
Simple number, yeah.
Sometimes the 911 and the local police go to the same number. That's how it is here.
That's kind of wild.
Oh, we're going into nonsense and social and everything, and this was baffling to me when
social and security.
Now
Are
we
you
are
done
going.
with
Now we are going to do the third section. So I will hold anything further until the end. Hopefully, I didn't miss any because there was a lot of chat going on, and this scroll buffer doesn't go forever.
That's what you like. A lot of chat. Engagement.
Yeah.
Keep engaging.
Engagement challenge.
Engage
They're all
harder.
talking amongst themselves, having a good time,
Yes.
drinking their punch.
Yeah, it actually is very encouraging because, I don't like chatting either, but there's human contact here. We are in this together. There's so much, everything is so adversarial that you interact with on a daily basis. It's
Now tell Wendell
time.
why he's wrong in the comments.
It's like, why is it? I'm not prepared to do. It's like, why? This is why it's so much work. I just want to go to the grocery store and buy some stuff. I don't want to be bombarded with all this crazy.
With ads and
That's actually a 4D chess dark pattern to get you to donate.
smash that like button and the bell.
Well, are we done with those?
Yep.
For now, yep.
We've learned that the children turn on each other and deep fake each other and release nudes, and that's disturbing because they're young. And you probably don't want that out there. And that picture is going to be out there, right? Somebody's got a copy of that. And that is not the only thing that they will do. They have learned that because they are more savvy in the social media world than their administrators and supervisors, they can also weaponize it against those people.
First known TikTok mob attack led by middle schoolers tormenting teachers. They created fake TikTok accounts and
Which promoted the worst possible content.
Yeah.
That if you were trying to target
Ruin
somebody,
someone's life. Yeah.
that's what you would say. And the teachers are kind of like, I don't know what to do about this. And the administration is like, we don't either, because you can't, the kids are too young. You can't really do anything to them.
they don't understand the consequences of playing with the chipper shredder. It's like, you mean you can't unchipper shred the teacher? No, you can't.
I would think there would be some consequences, but who knows? Now it's probably like, well, we just don't have any power. We'll just swat him on the wrist.
That is exactly the same lead-in that we could use for the next story.
The Reuters headline is Meta expands hate speech policy to remove more posts targeting quote-unquote Zionists.
You're not allowed to say anything about that, and we won't.
But there's a Reuters article you should go read.
And this one is, it's just kind of like every year you got to beat the record, right? Well, we've done it.
Rock You 2024, 10 billion passwords leaked in the largest compilation of all time.
We need a mission accomplished banner.
This is going to be used as a direct database as well as a fuzzing database where they chop off the numbers and symbols in the passwords and try them with more numbers and symbols, which actually this kind of thing reduces the amount of time it takes to brute force passwords in password encryption schemes that are otherwise pretty responsibly encrypted.
The other constant escalation is breaches. More breaches, but also the scope. The scope just keeps expanding. And maybe we've hit terminal velocity here because you can't actually get worse than this.
AT&T says criminals stole phone records of quote-unquote nearly all customers in new data breach. Now, TechCrunch and some other ones also talk about text messaging and text messaging records. AT&T has gone on the records as saying the contents of text messaging have not been stolen, but some others have said at least some of the text messaging content may have been stolen. So I'm not really sure. Obviously, anything that is on like iMessage is not going to be stolen because those are not on AT&T systems. But this seems like it's tantamount to fully compromising AT&T's systems for phone record data. And a lot of this you should be asking, why does this exist? Why does this go back to the beginning of time? Do you need last year's phone records?
And their response is, do you know what we're getting selling that to the AI companies?
Yeah.
It used to be the advertisers, now it's the AI companies.
We have literally filled a warehouse the size of Lower Manhattan with oily rags, and the fire is so large it can no longer be contained. That's how you should read these data breach stories. It's like, well, there's no fire regulations. You built a warehouse full of things that can catch on fire, and you're surprised you can't put the fire out? Like,
now register and give us your information to read this article. And when it comes to data breaches, here's a little bit of a warning sign. If the company you're doing business with is in business to do something really suspicious and unscrupulous, they might not be someone you want to trust.
Data breach exposes millions of M-Spy spyware customers. So this goes back to 2014, but I'm surprised there were this many millions of customers. Millions of customers.
There's a lot of cheaters, a lot of infidelity. A lot of people want to find out. A lot of Facebook relationships. And the modern supply chain and development cycle is a minefield. Not only can things go wrong outside of your control, but things can go wrong inside your control, even though you don't expect them to.
Python GitHub tokens leak shows binary files can burn developers too. So sometimes the tokens that are authenticate you to do things will survive inside dump files or binary files that may be accidentally added to your Git project, which is very bad.
And that's what happened here to the Python Software Foundation, and almost was terrible. Who knows how bad it actually was? We might find out more later. And Microsoft, one thing about Microsoft is their ability to respond to a crisis terribly. They keep hitting this mark over and over and raising the bar.
Microsoft's emails warned customers of Russian hackers criticized for looking like spam and phishing. This was, again, Microsoft is not playing 4D chess here. It was designed to look as illegit as possible so nobody will take it seriously, because that is the level of adversarial thinking. You can't just say, this is a bad thing, you should take this seriously. If someone was thinking about this and said, how can we make this not look legit?
How can we make this not seem like it's Microsoft's fault? Well, let's make the sending domain something else.
Yeah, look at this domain. This is absolutely insane. Like, is this communication actually from Microsoft? If you look at this based on all your information security training, the answer would be no. No, this is not a legit email. Which is, Microsoft doesn't want anybody to notice they screwed up so badly. Like, if you are an IT governance organization, you would be looking at this and saying, how can we possibly avoid this? And the answer is with not Microsoft in the future, because they're not going to take their security stance seriously enough to deal with this if they're doing nonsense like that.
Now let me tiptoe around a current event. Imagine the phone in a world where the FBI did what they said they did. Imagine the phone that they want to get into the most in the world right now. You can think of that, right?
Yeah. Picturing it.
They're saying, we don't have the ability to get into this phone.
X'd out.
Now, everything we've learned, it's an iPhone. Everything we've learned about law enforcement and iPhones is basically they have machines. They can just get right into them, right?
I'm pretty sure the Israeli government can get in there if we can't. Oh.
Well, and there's clearly companies that could help them.
Apple warns iPhone users in 98 countries of spyware attacks. This is software installed on the phone surreptitiously that provides remote access to a third party. This is nothing new. This has been happening since time immemorial, and it still continues to happen.
And this is our Wendell struggles to newspeak this headline so that we don't get demonetized. Headline of the week.
We're probably already demonetized.
Furry hackers attack Heritage Foundation's website and release sensitive data related to Project 2025.
I feel like the only really controversial word there is maybe furry.
This though,
Gay's not really.
there's something different that happened with this, which is worth mentioning, and that is the standard response to this kind of thing is becoming to flood all of the media channels and all of the traditional news things with as much disinformation as possible. And some of it, like, for, again, tiptoeing around current events, companies like CNN have gotten it wildly wrong based on early reports on the internet. And this was exactly the same. The heritage stuff, as it was happening, when it was happening, there were lots of, credentialed media organizations that did, I would say, irresponsible things covering that, which makes it hard to understand the depth of depraved action that surrounds reality.
Have you noticed that for some reason in the last 4 days, they've stopped? They're a little worried about that right now. Morning Joe did not air today. They were a little bit afraid.
But it's alarming that I sense a change in strategy. And the strategy is when the citizenry is getting together to try to piece things together and push away things that, not things that don't fit, but things that are manufactured that, I don't know that that's a better or worse situation, but trying to weaponize that is definitely not a good way to go for what the Second Amendment's free press, right? I can't remember.
Second Amendment is right to bear arms.
Right to bear arms. Was it?
First Amendment is freedom of speech
it's the second,
and the press.
Second part of the first. Yeah. So I can't. My brain's on that gear right now. But yeah, something that was made, like, we don't have a press that I would say is free. They are beholden to interests that are outside what it means to be free.
And the Supreme Court says that's okay. But I think the new narrative now is unity, right? But how are they going to take something, the idea of unity, and twist it to their own methods, right? That's what's interesting. That's what we're going to find out coming soon.
And it's interesting that was the headline, not, let's look at the horror of Project 2025. It was these furries. Look what they did. It's like,
well, we have a new kind of exploit that gets you in a way that you could never predict. And I don't know how realistic this is, but it's scary.
New snail load attack exploits network latency to spy on users' web activities.
So they have to have some presence in your network. They have to have, this is like a man in the middle type of thing. But just if they can get your traffic and use it and hit something on the web that loads, that they control, that loads slowly, they can use that to see what else it's you're doing.
It's a neat side channel attack. This is probably only useful for spooks, though. Although, if you had, like, if your ISP was really hideously evil, Spectrum, AT&T,
Literally any of them.
Yeah,
they could use data analytics to, like, we control the packets to such a degree that we know what websites you're on, even if your traffic is encrypted over a VPN, because we can control this.
And I bet artificial intelligence could do that really easily.
I don't think that's reality now, but I think there's probably some company that's thinking how they could commercialize that and make a few extra bucks.
Well, Google is always looking to make a few extra bucks, and they don't care what they have to do to your privacy to get it.
Google can totally explain why Chromium browsers quietly tell only its websites about your CPU and GPU usage. Basically, there are undocumented JavaScript APIs that are available on .google.com domains, but they're not available on other domains.
Seems to be an artifact of Google Hangouts. So one thing did survive. The worst part.
Yeah. In fact, I would almost say that it was probably ripped out and put in there.
And Krista, didn't you Airbnb recently? No?
No.
Well,
I stayed at a hostel, but it wasn't
that's not
Airbnb.
quite the same thing. Do you think there were any hidden cameras at the hostel?
No, it was also the person's house, so no.
The CNN headline is CNN how Airbnb fails to protect its guests from hidden cameras. It would be a tall job to investigate all of your properties.
Now, this is a long timeline. I think it was since like 2015 or something, but they said 37,000 instances.
We've done the stories about this before, for sure.
35,000, I'm sorry.
And Airbnb just like, oh, well.
Yeah, and they got into the Airbnb like training videos and stuff. They instruct their people not to contact the authorities to try to deal with it
Internally.
It's
really bad PR. So please don't tell anybody about this.
And we talk about these keys and how you can accidentally leak them and stuff like that. And sometimes they're not accidentally leaked. Sometimes they're written in plain text on your hard drive. And that's hard to explain, isn't it?
Signal downplays an encryption key flaw, fixes it after drama on Twitter. Basically, this is Signal stores stuff in an unencrypted fashion on the device on which it runs. So some other malware on your device could steal that unencrypted information. Signal, for their part, has been clear that they store stuff on your device in an unencrypted format, but in 2024, it does seem a little negligent to not at least try to obfuscate things. Theoretically, if somebody has full control of the local device, they're going to be able to recover both the key and the encrypted thing and then decrypt it. So it's only slightly more secure than it was, but yeah, not great.
They've changed it. And week after week, which is weird in this heat wave, we are getting snowflakes.
Oh.
And at this point, it's become a snowball, I think.
Snowflake breach at Advanced Auto Parts hits 2.3 million people. Basically, Advanced Auto Parts was also collecting way more information on their forms than they should have been, and the data has been lost.
Well, it's not lost. Somebody's found it.
Somebody's got it, yeah.
Control of the data has been lost. How about that?
And man, I'll tell you what, you should be one of two kinds of people. You should either be the kind of person that takes nudes on your phone, or you should be the kind of person who just throws your phone away or shreds your phone when something happens to it and gets a new one. Don't cross over between the two because this is going to happen.
Mobile Planet employee suspended after allegedly trying to send himself customers' nude photos.
Not fired.
Not fired.
Suspended.
Yeah. It's like, this is wrong. We should not do this.
That's what the workforce problem, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't do math. But yeah, she took her phone to get the camera wasn't working. When he gave it back to her, the camera was working, but it popped up and said airdrop failed. And when she clicked on what airdrop failed, it was one of her nudes.
Yeah. It's not the first time this kind of thing has happened. It's also happened with Apple and the Apple App Store, which is delightful. Not that it happened in the Apple App Store, but one of the reasons that Apple says that right to repair shouldn't be a thing is because somebody might do that, when in the reality is that it's already happened inside an Apple store.
I was like, what prevents it from your people from doing that?
So
The constant surveillance that Apple has on their employees, probably.
fun times. One-armed biker says, I've been running a forbidden router for a while. Thoughts about moving it to a Genoa build and doing GPU pass-through to a gaming workstation. Passmark says the single thread is the 9254 is equal to my 5950X. Maybe. Pass-through is a little hit and miss, especially with GPU reset and depending on the game, because sometimes you get a legit driver crash. And then recovering from a driver crash is tricky. Frederick Lilyabad, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you. Thanks for all that you do, making great content and links with friends. Been watching your channel for many years. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you. Friggin' thank you. Woot live. Mac Drew says, good to see you guys live again. Thank you.
Oh, we know Mac Drew.
Thank you.
We have a Twitch channel, if you don't know. You can watch us goof off and play games.
All right, I'm going to hold the rest until this last little section here.
Those not the last section.
Oh, wait, it's not?
This is robots and AI. We still have nonsense.
Yeah, we're doing it like we're more piecemeal than usual.
So you got a robots and AI, and then coming up, you've got nonsense after that. So there'll be a break between robots and AI and nonsense.
And
You need to get your coffee or your tea or whatever.
Your nut dust.
My nut dust tea.
just wait.
Hold it in.
Hold off on your.
Ruin your bladder health.
And thank you all for watching and hanging out and sharing with your friends.
And one group of friends that won't be sharing a conference room anymore. There's going to be some empty seats because some people might be a little bit afraid of the regulators.
Microsoft's decision to give up its OpenAI board observer seat doesn't quell key concerns
From the European Union or the FTC.
Now, are we at a state where Apple has an observer board seat, but Microsoft doesn't, and
No.
Microsoft has invested for $15 billion?
I think Apple is also backing out, right? Did I see that?
I don't know.
I'll be surprised if they don't.
Chat can let us know. But that would be just because Apple didn't give them any money.
And, I don't think that either of those people were going to be on the safety team. So probably not their fault here, but there is a safety team, surprisingly.
OpenAI promised to make its AI safe. Employees said it failed the first test. Previously unreported incident showcases the limits of President Biden's strategy for thwarting AI harms. Anytime you read an article like this, you should mentally substitute AI for fire and pretend that the civilization has just discovered fire for the first time. If we were this worried about it, we never would have continued with fire.
So they're basically what this boils down to is they made a promise that they were going to do full testing on the O model. Is it Omega? Is that what that stands for? And they did kind of, but the safety team was like, you're only giving us a week or 2 weeks to do this? That's crazy. And they're like, well, you just have to do it. And then they came back and they were like, wow, guys, that was really hard. Can we not do that next time? And they're like, yeah, we're not going to do it at all next time.
I mean, in fairness, it's like we haven't discovered all the ways that we can hurt ourselves with fire in a week. Well, I mean, we can see that we can hurt ourselves with fire in a week. Let's move on.
This headline doesn't really work with your replacement. I mean, I guess it does make as much sense to have a fire health coach as it does to have this.
OpenAI and Ariana Huffington are working together on an AI health coach.
When I first read this headline earlier, I read it as Ariana Grande, the singer, and I was very confused for a minute. I was like, what does she have to do with health?
I'd say she has as much to do with my health as Ariana Huffington.
They're jointly funding this too. So she must, I don't know.
They're going to hallucinate you into an emergency room. And when you're interacting with AI, it is easy to treat them like a human because they respond like humans, but it's very critical that we remember they are not humans at all.
Most ChatGPT users think AI models have conscious experiences.
This was a way higher percentage than I am comfortable seeing.
They should all go read the All You Need Is Attention paper from Google because it is a statistical model. Not saying it could turn out that a large part of our brains also work on a statistical model. Like that could be the discovery here, but it is not conscious.
And when you treat it like it is, it's probably not healthy.
Yeah.
I think, as the kids say, touch grass.
Now, it could be an incredible tool. It could even synthesize, like, quote unquote, synthesize some knowledge, but it's a statistical model.
It can be an incredible tool. It can also be a horrible blight on humanity, and it can create not just bad things, but useless things, and it can flood the world with just more garbage.
Early Apple tech bloggers are shocked to find their name and work have been AI zombified.
This website, unofficial Apple weblog, it ended in 2015, but it's been resurrected, and they just stole the names of the people who wrote the articles.
And they stole them for writing weird Apple articles, yes, but that's not all. This young lady was one of them.
They stole the identity as well.
She's now online dating's face. And they have some more examples here. I think those are...
Some of these articles were posted like minutes apart, clearly just generated and then put under the author's name.
And this guy. So, yeah. It sucks that like you did something and it's out there on the internet and now AI is not only going to go and consume it, but it's going to sort of like repurpose you.
Yeah.
This is going to, the security hack that happened with OpenSSH where they tried to insert the compromise through like system telemetry or whatever. They're going to steal an identity like that. There's going to be an intelligence operator that is trying to, and it's like, I stopped coding on GitHub years ago. What do you mean my profile continued? And because it was just a convenient, history to build on. It's like, oh, this GitHub account was active for years and then went inactive. I'll just be that person now on another platform.
Well, that's going to happen, and probably those personalities and identities are just going to be recycled to interface with us in the future because we'll never actually be talking to anyone at a company ever again.
Most consumers hate the idea of AI-generated customer service. 53% say they would move to a competitor if a company was going to use AI for customer service.
To be fair, if you just scratched AI generated from that headline, I would still say I hate it.
But right now, there's no customer service in a lot of companies, right? So like maybe this is a slight improvement. I guess not really. It's just an illusion, right?
It's probably, it's just another step between you and getting to an actual person.
Which you cannot do.
I think this headline is provably false. If you had an AI that was able to accomplish what you needed to do, people would be thrilled. But the problem is all of the customers that have something the AI can't handle, will the AI recognize that? And the answer is probably no. Because there's edge cases right now that the script training just doesn't fit into, and you just get a random response from the company when that happens.
Well, the answer to that is obviously to scrape every piece of human experience so that we can make it better. Oh, and we're also going to need all the water and electricity while we're at it. But we're going to make it so you can talk to the robots.
Peloton faces a lawsuit amid claims that it allowed marketing firm to train AI on user chat data. So if you were using the social app aspects of Peloton, they said, oh, this is another way that we can make a lot of money. We can sell this data to an AI company, which is not something the users explicitly signed up for. And so they're unhappy that they've discovered that this data has been used to feed AI models.
This exact same headline came out of Google recently, right?
Yep.
Did they ever release it?
Nope.
Oh, so now we got two dangerous models out there.
Microsoft has developed an AI voice generator so realistic that it's deemed too dangerous to release, just like Google. So let's see. There's a time delta of about 6 months between Microsoft and Google.
I think they said this only required a few seconds of voice.
You give it a few seconds of voice and you push the button and it's like the tree of liberty. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. No, it's too dangerous.
I'm an AI that has been created to help you refresh the tree of liberty. It's like, oh no.
I kind of figured we're just screwed because there's hours and hours and hours of footage of us talking.
Don't believe anything that you hear me say.
Yeah.
We covered this earlier, the Miss AI pageant. It has been decided. I don't know who voted. I guess you voted on
Who cares? Like,
but we've crowned a winner and two runners up.
The Ars Technica headline is the first Miss AI contest sparks ire for pushing unrealistic beauty standards because literally everything was AI generated.
even the judges. 2 of the 4 judges were AI generated. It's just garbage in, garbage out. Like, who cares?
Remember we talked about the hands? All the winning pictures have no hands.
Yeah.
Although they did have to generate even more pictures. Like there's so many pictures of her. I guess she's got her own social media.
Yeah, that was part of what was judged, was their social media profiles.
Is that Miss France?
This is the lady who won, I think.
That's 3rd place. Okay. And after what we learned about the Samsung plant being that, hey, they're going to go on strike, and the plant people are like, okay, doesn't really affect us too much. And clearly, tech companies are preparing for more of this in the future.
TechSpot's headline is Xiaomi unveils a new autonomous smart factory that operates 24/7 without human labor. My headline would have been, we're an inch closer to Factorio being real.
Well, Factorio needed 1 human.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is it's like, if something catastrophic happens, how many people do they have to call and then pay contractor rates to?
Well, it turns out a lot, but
Well, we're going to be in our pods and we're going to be eating the bugs, but how are they going to get the bugs to us? Don't worry.
Walmart is opening 5 automated distribution centers as it tries to keep its grocery dominance. So these automated distribution centers can even pull refrigerated food, which apparently was a huge source of labor.
And they pack the pallets themselves. So, and I think they load the trucks, right? So
Yeah.
all that you got to do, and they'll be driving the truck soon.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been surprised at how little Walmart has done, considering how much money Amazon has invested. Because I always thought Walmart was way ahead on logistics and organization, and they've already got all the physical stores. Why don't you have a crew working out of the back of the store doing the Amazon stuff with all the automation? It seems like the obvious choice.
I don't know. I forgot to add it. Did you guys see the self-checkout headline from Walmart this week? Self-checkout in some stores is now gated behind the
User login?
the Prime membership on the app.
I've heard that.
So there's no cashiers, or there's like one line. But if you want to go through the self-checkout, you have to be a subscriber.
That makes sense because
Does it?
the video from self-checkout, it makes sense in a world where
In a
everybody
horrible,
steals
yeah.
everything. Because the video from self-checkout is so good. If somebody's stealing from you, you know.
But except
And-
if I'm stealing, like, why would I even go through the self-checkout?
That's the easiest
No,
way to
that's
steal.
that's the way they steal.
They just take like every 3rd item?
They sticker over the barcode. That's one thing. They skip, like they hold their
Yeah,
hand,
yeah.
or they'll like. I watched a body cam video. This chick, she had a brilliant idea. She had greeting cards, and she would hold the greeting card so that it covered the barcode, but it scanned the greeting card barcode. So it's like, oh, PlayStation. The AI does catch it immediately. She got caught, but now you also have her information on the app, right?
Yeah. And you can hunt them down, which is good.
Is it?
Well, one thing about the modern world that we should all do more of is training ourselves with YouTube content, because some of it's actually really good and probably just as good as a major educational institution, wouldn't you say? And it's not just for people.
Google's AI robots are learning from watching movies, just like the rest of us. Helps them learn to navigate and complete tasks. As soon as we've got an AI, like the video generation AI, as soon as we have an AI where the design of the AI is to build a mental model of how things work in the real world in 3 dimensions, so that you don't have, because I watched the AI generated gymnastics and it's like human bodies don't move that way. I mean, they're moving kind of similarly, but human bodies don't move that way. But as soon as it's got a mental model of like, this is how human bodies move, it's going to generate realistic AI. This is going to help with this kind of robotics as well.
I'm imagining it watching like Ex Machina, and it's like, I've learned something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
It's like, how many Asimov books have been put into movies?
There's the Foundation TV show too.
But the interesting thing about that robot is, like, one of the big things about the language models is that their input window is pretty small. They're, like 400 or 500 lines of code, they start to get a little fuzzy. That thing can watch long videos and retain somehow.
Again, these are all just the Lego, like the large language model doesn't have the retention, and like OpenAI is bolting that on in kind of ham-fisted ways, but we'll do it the right way soon.
Well, what is the right way to make our robots be more in tune with nature?
On New York City beaches, angry birds fight drones patrolling for sharks and struggling swimmers. The birds see them as competing for food.
I'm imagining like you're drowning and you just see the drone hovering over you, and it's like, help me, drone, and it just flies away.
Oh, no, it's got a rapid inflatable
Okay.
that it can drop.
It drops it on you, but you get tangled in it.
Or, like you're waiting for the inflatable, you're waving your hands, and a seabird comes, takes it out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this seagull is it's like, oh, crap, the drone is going to spot that drowning swimmer. I have to make sure that it doesn't.
Because the bird was the one who sabotaged the raft in the first place.
I'd watch that movie.
This sounds like a problem that's going to cause my power to go out.
I also saw this and was like, my power is so finicky. Our power went on 4th of July for like 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. They say it's safe, but I don't know how much I trust it.
This genius vampire drone is designed to fly forever. How? By landing on high tension wires and recharging itself, because those aren't insulated.
There's a picture of it, I think, or maybe a video in this article.
And it's induction charging, which is actually an amazing thing. You ever watch, like, some people will accidentally build a fence under a tension wire and they'll put a multimeter on it, and it's like, oh. And then I saw a video where one guy actually had a light bulb.
Ooh.
And he could just put it out in his field, and just out in the middle of the field with nothing connected to it, the little light bulb was glowing.
I've got a night light. Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's interesting. At first, they're just going to be tending the lines, right? Because we need to inspect them, but a drone doesn't fly long enough. So that little guy's just going to like bat hang till he's ready and then do more.
Well, it sounds like
my
Chris
stomach.
did not.
Growling, wow.
I ate before I came.
No food today?
Just hungry.
And we talk a lot about, license plate scanning, which FedEx and all the major delivery drivers are doing. And it's happening. We got the smart highways. Everything's under surveillance when you're on the road. But it's not just our government.
Self-driving cars from China are collecting data on U.S. roads.
It's driving through Michigan. It's like, wow, these roads suck.
That's important if you're going to do a land invasion, right? We can't take tanks on these roads. They're a mess.
Why do they have better coverage of Canada and Alaska than they do of California and New York? Something ain't right.
And self-driving cars are going to be making mistakes, but sometimes the mistakes they make are a little bit unforgivable. I actually saw a human do this on the way here.
Oh.
Driverless car accused of trying to flee police after swerving onto oncoming traffic. This is the story that we reported on a week or two ago. And there's more information. The video from this has been released, and it doesn't look like the driverless car really did anything wrong. It really actually was poorly marked.
Yeah, it got confused by the construction, but it probably made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Of driving into oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
Should have just stopped. But it's so funny to watch these videos because the cops, like, they stop it. It knows to stop, but then they walk up to it and it's like they have to call customer service. I bet that makes them very angry. And we talked about this when it started. It's been quietly going on, and they finally get to come back. Do you think they got to see outside news and stuff? That's probably not, right? Because it's probably part of the mental.
Well, it said that I looked up a different article because this was like the day it happened, and it said that there was like a 23-minute delay in communications to simulate like how it'd actually be.
But were they allowed to access media?
Probably.
Probably it just had the delay on it.
Yeah. Volunteers who lived in NASA's Mars simulation for over a year will finally emerge today.
This was on the 6th. So I tried to find other articles with like interviews from them, and most of them were like, we're just really happy to talk to other people. We're so glad you're here.
We don't talk about what went on in the simulator. And everybody's dream, right? Drinking our own urine. It's going to be the future, and I can't wait.
It's another level 1 recurring
What a
joke.
good segue.
Scientists designed spacesuit that can turn urine into actual drinkable water. It's a prototype.
Oh, I hate the paywall here. Oh, no, we can.
They was talking about like still suits in Dune.
I thought they had a picture.
They have the picture of the thing on the back,
I
but
thought they had a picture of the current one. But anyway, they talk about the astronauts, and they're like, yeah, at some point, because the current ones are just diapers.
right.
And they're like, at some point, you can't tell the sweat from the urine. And it does drip down your legs.
Between that and the insect meat, I mean, our future is almost here, chat. It's amazing.
Well, the end of this section is here.
Yay!
They don't talk about that in the Dune books about how you can't tell the difference between the sweat and the urine.
You also, I have a feeling that there's, for males at least, there's going to be like an external catheter. Imagine having to always keep that in position.
Mr. B, love your content. Here's a few pounds for your YouTube tax. Thank you. Let's see. Joseph Carter, the most useful news program on the internet, in parentheses, God help us. That is exactly right.
It's not a newspaper.
It's a Links with Friends program.
God help us is right. David Kindred, thank you. I'm an hour behind, but thanks for the great program. Not sure what I'm going to ask or what I'm going to do the rest of the week. You're fine. Just don't do it all at once.
Just stop right now.
Yeah, just pause. It's all good.
Portion control.
Tala Ahmad, $20. Please just mention the 1966 Telecommunications Act. I'm sorry, that's the 1996 Telecommunications Act.
He's getting the bingo card.
BA Juggalo is super chat for super chads. Thank
Live
you.
from the gathering. Actually, I think the gathering's in the spring, isn't it?
We're big with juggalos. No, it's coming up.
Oh,
It's
that's right. We
August.
looked it up. Yeah, we looked it up.
Wonder what there is the Venn diagram for fans of ours and juggalos does seems as though they're
We've never even done a Fago sponsorship.
also bikers. We got a lot of bikers and truckers in the audience.
I think Wendell tried their orange soda once.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when we did the orange soda bracket.
Bikers and truckers make sense because I don't know about bikers, but truckers need an infinite amount of content, right?
Yeah, because you're driving all day.
George Fiorio says, I appreciate the content, opinions, and jokes. The world is messed up, but we can have fun with it while our depression increase. Like, listen, our depression, we're all in this together. This is the one of the bastions of there are still some sane, rational people out there. I actually think this is one of the best times in history to be alive, even though.
Controversial statement, provocative.
Yeah, Frenzied Manby says, Wendell, my TrueNAS scale is running a VM under Proxmox. I pass through each of my SSDs by serial number. If I wanted to add a new pool of dual actuator SATA hard drives, do you think this would work? Yeah, it's fine. Just pass through the physical device and then set up partitions in the VMs. Totally okay. All right. Now I'll hold all the rest of them until we get done. This is nonsense. Oh, Jonathan Briggs, thank you. Just want to let you know that if you say pee pee poo poo, sure.
As you read it.
How much was that?
$2.
Worth.
$1.99, I'm sorry. Although after YouTube takes their cut, probably more like 37 cents. But that's fine. We're good. We appreciate your engagement and just hanging out and watching and helping us do stuff. Like we're just taking up space.
Well, it seems a lot of people are just taking up space, and people that we might respect and listen to them on their opinions about our health and things like that, about the food we eat, but they might not be honest.
When scientific citations go rogue, uncovering sneaked references. These are references to people that don't exist?
No, this is metadata.
Okay.
So you publish a paper, your name is not on it, but you put your name in the metadata.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of all the automatic scraping, your name starts to grow clout in the research
It's
community.
just SEO gaming.
Yeah.
But for research, that's insane.
Isn't there a rule though that there can't be more than 7 names on a paper?
That no one's looking at the metadata. The names are not on the paper. So If you went to try and check and be like, hey, did Bob help wrap this paper? No, but his name's in the metadata. So the robots attribute him. So it's
If you actually looked at the paper, but most people probably don't reach that step. They're just checking a database.
But Bob doesn't care if you look at the paper or not, but he's just trying to build his social credit score among the researchers. That's basically what it amounts to. Research credit score.
That's like the saddest, nerdiest group you want to build clout with.
Well, it means big money.
Yeah, you get money for grants.
Grants and stuff like that, yeah. Another really lucrative thing to do is to charge people for medical care that never happened.
Private insurers made $50 billion from Medicare for illnesses untreated by doctors, according to this report. This rampant medical fraud absolutely is a thing that happens.
So my parents actually, they don't know on Medicare, but this happened to them. And I wonder if their insurance got hit by this, because what happens is there's a special rule that says, oh, you know what? Doctors might forget something, or maybe they treat something and they don't put it down. We're going to send a nurse to your house, and the nurse is going to look you over. And if they think there were any things that happened that weren't recorded, then we're going to bill for those. They give you gift cards. So my parents they're calling me up and they're like, we have Target gift cards. What can we do with them? I'm like, how did you get Target gift cards? It's this scam.
Wow. Also, why would they accept that? There's no Targets anywhere in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, that's the thing. They were just like, oh, free stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
when are you going to go to use a Target gift card?
And Krista, you are the only one here who's going to be affected by this one. I mean, as far as I know, this has to be terrifying for you.
Arsenic, lead, and other toxic metals found in tampons, according to this study.
Would not surprise me.
So here's the craziest thing about this story. Organic tampons, way higher in arsenic. Non-organic tampons, higher in lead. So they do actually change something.
I used the organic ones for a while, TMI for everyone, but I mean, you can't win, right?
Well, I mean, would you rather have arsenic or lead? Also,
I'd like to not have a period, but apparently that's just too much to ask after 15 years.
They point out that because that part of the body is direct blood barrier, what do they call that?
A membrane?
Yeah. Well, there's a word for the fact that things can get directly to the bloodstream there.
Yeah.
You don't want that stuff.
There was it was a story a couple of weeks ago about food contamination. They couldn't figure out where the lead was coming from. It turns out it was coming from the local municipal tap water. They'd built a new factory and they were doing food production. And they were like, that's weird. There's lead coming from somewhere. And it turns out it was coming from the municipal tap water.
The legend is that New York pizza is better than anywhere else in the world because you can't replicate New York tap water.
I do like that. That's the
New York
legend.
tap water's metal content is literally illegal anywhere else.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just delicious. Like I've actually watched a video where a guy said, yeah, I went to Florida and the pizza was terrible after. Like we took our recipe, we took the equipment, and it wasn't the same.
I've heard people have very strong opinions about different cities' water, even around here. Like, not that far apart.
Romans would occasionally sweeten wine with lead. That's a thing.
Well, another thing that's a thing is Eurovision. And I don't understand what it is. I think it's a singing contest.
Yeah. It's like our version of American Idol.
But it only happens once every 2 years. And it's all of Europe.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you can fight for your country or sing for your country, I guess. But some people don't like it.
The Swiss seek right to block Eurovision's celebration of Satanism and occultism. So no Eurovision for you if you're in Switzerland.
People got really into it like people here in the US, like a friend of mine was super invested in Eurovision last time.
Well, I think this is Nemo here. Anyway, Nemo won. I think that's Nemo. Nemo was the first non-binary Eurovisionist, but there was also actual like candles and pentagrams in some of the acts they point out. They don't like that Lord Satan is getting any attention here.
What about Count Benface? Can he have attention? Is that okay?
We don't know who does he worship? UP, we've learned, is Upper Province, right? Or
yeah,
is this
the UP
actually,
of Michigan.
Oh, no, actually, I think this might be India.
I guess it's actually like up here, but
Is UP a thing in India too?
Oh, I guess it could be. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't know their geography very well.
This is definitely India. What is UP in India, chat? We can actually get
Live
real-time feedback now.
Yeah.
UP teacher sacked after his phone reveals how long he played Candy Crush. He was spending like 2 hours a day just goofing around on his phone out of, what was it, a 6 or 7 hour workday?
But more importantly, he was being audited, and they found 30-some errors on the first page of his grading. He was not doing anything but Candy Crush. And it's easy to make fun of this, but then you think about our political system and the spectacle that it is. Is it that much difference? I mean, she's better looking.
We are in the glassiest of glass houses. Japanese political candidate strips on national television broadcast asks viewers if they think she's sexy. This is perhaps not remotely as incoherent as some of the stuff that has been in American politics. This is fine.
So they point out that in these kinds of elections, it's like I guess it's an equal time type of thing. So without investing very much, you can get in front of a lot of people. She has no real ambition to be in politics. She's just trying to get social media followers.
I mean, okay, it's effective.
That's where the real power is.
We covered it.
She didn't get naked. She just had like a tube top under there. But in the context, it's salacious. And this is the story I was thinking about. Yeah. Japan, they do have a little bit of a problem with their demographics and the pragmatic diaper companies. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Atar Oradesh is what UP stands for, apparently.
Wow.
Japan nappy makers chase growing adult market after births hit record low. Now, is this because you're so lazy you don't want to bother getting up to go to the bathroom? Or
No, it's because
Some people just have incontinence when they get older.
Yeah, it's because you're old and there's nobody to take care of you.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be sitting in your own waste.
More likely if you're a lady and you have born a child, unfortunately. Something to look forward to.
Good reason not to do that. Although, kind of.
Yeah.
Krista, did you ever want to be a mermaid when you were a little girl?
Yeah.
Or currently?
No, not currently.
Oh, when did that stop?
I don't know. But eventually, everyone played it. Every kid, well, most kids I knew, we all played mermaids at the pool.
Well, some people didn't stop.
Provo woman becomes the fastest mermaid in the world at the Mer Olympics. So in the Mer Olympics, you apparently wear a sock around your leg.
They have like
she's
actual
got
tails. Yeah,
she's got a full.
There's like tourist attractions, especially I think in like Florida, where they do a whole show and they have like hidden underwater breathing things. It's actually really cool.
I can't scroll down. It's a modal. Can you lean? Oh, the laptop's covering up the important bits. It's not. We don't need to see it. You can click on the link. They got the link.
This is an amazing live stream. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's not just swimming fast, right? So there's different events. They put trash on the bottom of the ocean. The mermaid has to go down and collect all the trash.
Oh, yeah.
Then she has to go down to the bottom and pose underwater and hold the pose until the picture's taken.
Are they doing free? Like they don't have the apparatus thing that they have in some.
Do mermaids have that?
Well, listen, some tourist ones I've seen on the internet, they do.
Those aren't real mermaids.
They aren't. You're right.
But they have some other events, and she's the best. She's number one.
Now, see, that's something I can care about.
Number one. Mermaid.
Yeah, AI generated ladies don't care, but
They do
people
it.
pretending to be mermaids, absolutely.
They do it every 2 years, so you got time to start training.
Oh, it's like Fat Bear Week, but it's a new one. New one to get excited for.
And we have some outrage at art, which is always interesting. This is in Australia.
Artwork featuring Christ overlaid with Looney Tunes characters removed by the Sydney Council after threats of violence. This is, and then we can't scroll down, can we? Can we scroll down? So, yeah, there you go.
Can see
Look,
it.
look at that chat.
I don't feel particularly violent toward that
I
image.
mean, it's kind of silly. I don't find it all that compelling, but I'm sure Disney hates it. Probably more than the Australians. They have pulled it because people threatened violence. That guy said basically his phone just kept beeping the entire day with death threats, which I don't understand because, like, why do you have to defend God? God can defend himself.
Yeah, I don't
right?
understand that either.
He'll do it. And Lego are, I'm not going to say Legos, but they're expensive.
They are.
Oh boy, are they expensive, which creates a bit of a cottage industry.
Police bust massive Lego theft ring at brick builders in Eugene, Oregon.
How much Lego? Look
Oh,
at all
wow.
that.
What a bust.
These were
They took a picture.
Lego sets that were being stolen from Target and other stores for a long time. And Target just begged the police department, please, can you do something about this? And finally they did.
Now, see, if Target just had that login system, that would have prevented all these thefts.
But what's hilarious about it is some of the people got caught. And when the police interrogated them, they were like, listen, we think something's going on here. We might cut you a break. And they were like, oh, yeah, that shop knows. Everybody in the meth, collective around here understands you take Lego there, you get cash. No questions asked. And Red Roof ends. Wow, you know what? I've never considered the darkness that might be lurking on all those interstate exits. But apparently it's pretty widespread.
The shocking scale of human trafficking, it's worse than that, but I'm afraid of the algorithm. Allegations of Red Roof Inn hotels across the United States. And there's a map and a database. And yeah, see something, say something, but goodness gracious.
Did this article describe why Red Roof?
Yes. Well, probably because it's cheap, right? But the reason that Red Roof is involved here is because there's a new law that says anybody that makes money from human trafficking can be sued.
Oh, okay.
So they're saying, hey, Red Roof is getting business here and they should know better. I don't know how they would know.
I don't know. Yeah, you can't necessarily know.
The people who are complaining about it said, I was 15 and I was walking into Red Roof at 10 o'clock in the morning with my pimp to get a room in like club clothes.
Yeah.
And no one questioned it. I mean, then they probably shouldn't, right? But
I remember we've reported on stories where like a grandma has lost her house because her degenerate, nephew was selling drugs on the street in front of their house. And the police were like, oh, we're going to take this and convert your house into cash now. And then the grandma is homeless, but under like the drug seizure laws. And so if that is happening to grandmas, then we should be seizing red roofs.
What are we going to do with them though? They're not that valuable, especially when you lose this business.
I bet they don't even have any good breakfast anymore.
If you have a zero basis, you'd be surprised that, you can make some money on that. It doesn't matter. The basis was zero.
Do you think Red Roof's going to have like new training about that? They probably should. Like if you see something, maybe contact local authorities to do a wellness check. Like,
yeah. I don't think we should be taking grandma's house either, but if we're not taking red roofs from something that seems so egregious as to what the article describes, then something has gone wrong somewhere.
The problem with this is it will just lead to more data capture at the hotel.
Yeah.
And then they'll lose it. So the regular hotel stayer will suffer.
As is the case of all things in modern society.
Is it Grande or Grande?
Grande, I think.
It's Grande?
I feel reasonably certain, but I actually don't know.
Well, she's not the only Grande. She has a sibling. And apparently he's been on TV, I guess. But he's got some things to say about her, surprisingly.
Ariana Grande's brother, Frankie, defends her from cannibalism rumors. This is the lowest y'all have ever gone. Yes, it seems like she would not be a cannibal. Like, that doesn't, like...
Wow, you can't just say that. Cannibals can look any way you want.
So here's what actually happens here. This is part of a new kind of meta thing online where, like with Taylor Swift, you know how vicious people are for those tickets? Well, apparently it's the same is true for Ariana. And the new thing is to try and start a rumor about the artist to turn people off so you can get all the tickets.
Now, see, I've also heard too, so she had a massive affair earlier this year. And so I wonder if the cannibalism rumor is like, if you look her up, that's what comes up first. You're like, oh, that's dumb.
What if the affair was all just the same game? She hadn't done anything wrong.
I think it was pretty well confirmed considering there were photos.
You can't trust anything.
And she wrote a song that said, like, yeah, I did it. So,
Maybe that song was actually about the cannibalism.
Ooh, that's a much better. We're just spreading a little misinformation about Ariana Grande today.
Well, there's a little misinformation in China, and I actually have this story in here twice, so we're going to get to see it again.
Yeah.
We're going to learn more about how the government dealt with it later.
Food safety scandal rocks China as report claims cooking oil was carried in the same trucks as fuel.
Now you're probably thinking, well, you mean it's just the same truck pulling a different tank, right? Nope. And well, it doesn't matter, right? Because they clean the tanks between. No. Fuel comes out, oil goes in, and vice versa.
Oil can have a little fuel.
That is an allegation. We're not sure if it's true.
New York pizza can't taste. Maybe there's some dish there.
Yeah. What if all the food got way better if it had a little kerosene in it?
This was deeply dark for latent reasons other than just the obvious
Talking
ones.
about this one?
Yeah.
The thing about this one is if you're old and you're eating Taco Bell every meal, you're not going to be around for long. Maybe that's a way that you can manage your retirement, right? Just eat yourself to death here.
Taco Bell opening a retirement community in California. One of the rates is a very reasonable $150 for the weekend, which includes meals,
And drinks and activities.
which is Taco Bell. In terms of like a social thing, this is actually probably a brilliant move because old people don't have a way like this would be great. This actually is not a terrible idea.
You know who would be a great corporate partner here is those Japanese adult diaper companies, right? Because if you're in your 80s and you're pounding Taco Bell for every meal, something's going to happen there.
I can imagine
You're going to need more than one diaper.
the Taco Bell Gordita vending machine with diapers in the bottom. Like that could be a thing.
It's a combo, right? The midnight craving. What's the word that rhymes with craving that would involve crapping your pants?
There's also Live Moss.
Live Moss for a little while. This is a weird story, and I was just like, why is this in The Guardian?
Tourists rush to save an ice cream van washed out to sea in Cornwall.
The ice cream was out of the van, so if you're thinking like, oh, I bet the crabs enjoyed the ice cream, they didn't get to.
So it's just trash. They just trashed a van.
They got to enjoy the tires and rubber hoses.
They got it out. Oh, it's going to be hard to see because there's a hard...
Yeah, there's the scrolly. This is a large menu.
But this is something that you would think would be impossible by a restaurant that was run with any kind of standards, but apparently it happened.
The headline is the city of Perth is investigating a restaurant after family claims it was given insecticide instead of cranberry juice.
I've seen that episode of Chubby Emu.
That seems unlikely.
The other weird thing about this is that the cranberry juice was served to the children, which was not cranberry juice. It was actually insecticide. They drank it, spit it out immediately because
Tastes
it
bad.
was insecticide. And the mom was like, wait a minute, what? And then she took a drink.
Why would you not sniff it? I sniff food, even if it's like just normal food. I usually will sniff it before I eat it.
That's a great lead into this story. I can't really think of exactly how to say it. Let's just let it stand on its own, sniffing it before you eat it.
A small Georgia town is having a meltdown after a video goes viral of a dude drinking a margarita from somewhere he should not have been at a local Mexican restaurant. And you can read that. That's fine. But what?
This is actually a thing I've seen at strip clubs.
Oh,
So like
That's not sanitary.
they pour the liquor, like you pay for the liquor, and then you position yourself to, and most of it gets wasted, so it's great for the club. These people were just doing it on their own at the family restaurant. Rodeo is apparently a very popular Mexican place in this town.
not for any longer.
I don't know. I don't think
Someone
that's
got booty juice? No thanks.
In the days before the internet, that was just a rumor. Like, no, that didn't really happen.
Now we
It's
have
fine.
video of it, and now I'm never going back.
See, you think that's going to turn people off, but I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I don't know, let's go check out rodeo. Did you hear what happened last weekend?
Ugh.
Oh, here's the follow up. So this one is actually the one I meant to put in. I accidentally left the other one in. But the other one was like, oh, the government is trying to get it. The government, Chinese Communist Party was trying to position themselves to be like, this can't happen. What's going on here? That wasn't working. So then the next phase.
Intense online censorship seeks to dampen scandal over unwashed fuel tankers transporting cooking oil. So there's two things that happen in parallel with you look at this. One is if this wasn't real and it was spreading like crazy, or if it was real and it was spreading like crazy. Either way, they pulled all the stops out to suppress it. And it was fairly effective, which only lended credibility to how ridiculous that was.
And it's vacation season. Maybe you want to take a nice South African beach vacation, enjoy all the wildlife, maybe go on safari, see whatever's going on. But you do have a very strange risk in those waters you got to watch out for.
Everyone was paddling to get away. Seals with rabies alarm South Africa's surfers.
This is pretty rare, I think, because normally seals don't. I was like, it's really rare for them to get rabies.
Well, there's a bunch that have it here.
Yeah.
And they're attacking each other and spreading it.
Ugh.
Maybe there was a civil war that led to this.
We gotta put them down.
And we have this week 2 turtle stories.
Wow.
6 Ninja Turtle gang members arrested. 200 smuggled reptiles seized in Malaysia. Both turtles and tortoises, before you chime in with the comments, as you do every time we mention turtles. I think we got some tortoise fans in the audience.
I can't
Cute
tell.
little feller.
I think that's a tortoise, right? It's hard to see his feet.
What's the difference? I actually don't know.
Flippers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because some people are like, oh, I took this turtle out to the pond and threw it in there. And it's like, it can't swim.
You killed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently this is because in some Asian cultures, these particular turtles are considered good luck. People want them, but they are invasive. You can't have them. I mean, you can, but you have to buy them from those guys. And now
They're so dumb they got caught. So
another Perth Now story that's hard to get the headline so where you can see it over top of us. But again, it's the turtles. And again, the turtles, it's not anything good for the turtles.
ATSB data reveals Perth Airport has the most turtle strikes with planes over the past
I
decade.
think they have like a whiteboard in the
Well,
the
it's
room.
hilarious because the guy that's driving out there on the little cart to shovel the turtle up has to go and fill a form out afterwards.
Oh. They track that. There's a database for that in it somewhere.
And this was a video, but you can kind of get the idea just from the headline and the blurb.
Brazilian prison uses geese to deter escapes.
It would deter me.
Sentinel geese. Did you know that there were a breed of geese designed for they were bred to guard?
That's not one of the little animal companions you can get in Prison Architect. So no, I did not know
They
that.
should add that. It should be DLC, right?
It
They're
should.
loud and effective.
He pointed out that dogs would cost a lot to keep all the way around the perimeter, but the geese kind of just take care of themselves. And anytime anybody gets near them, they just make an insane amount of noise.
I believe that.
You should get some of those for your yard.
We have geese. Well, they're not in our yard. They usually go over to the neighbor's pond, but the ducks do not like it.
I
Now,
like the idea of guard geese. There's just something about that that's delightful.
Imagine when you had that little statue stolen. If like those guys went up there and then just a goose came flying up off the porch. I
last
would have
week,
dropped it.
I foolishly left some chicken wing bones in the trash and left the house for more than an hour. And Mr. Toast got into them. But fortunately, so far they don't seem to be getting on the stove. I mean, they probably are when I'm gone.
I
right?
worry about that with Cricket because, like, you turn it off and it takes a while to cool down.
Yeah.
He's dumb enough that he would probably go sit on it.
Well, this takes it to the next level.
Pyromaniac pup almost burns down a Colorado Springs home. 4:45 in the morning. Really wanted to burn everything down.
They had some boxes on there. The guy managed to put it out himself, though. He had a Apple HomePod saved him.
Is that just an advertisement? Did we just read an advertisement?
AI generated
Yeah.
advertisement. And our final story, this is hilarious because they just put up some tape and things went on as normal.
Watch, a sneaky alligator caught hiding underneath Publix shopping carts. So we'll just put a box around him and pretend he's not there. And you can keep shopping because it'll cost too much if we shut down the store.
Well, probably also, I mean, like, it might take a while for animal control to get there.
Also, how much risk is there really?
As long as you don't come near it, yeah.
Yeah, just keep an eye on it.
That's crazy.
Keep it on your radar.
Is that the last story?
I think that was our last one.
Pretty sure it is.
That's completely nuts.
I'm sure there are other horrors unfolding, but we will go over those at the end of the week. I'm getting a next for
Yeah,
you
I
guys.
left out a little, like yesterday and today, mostly I left them out. So we'll have something for next week.
I'm slightly alarmed because the YouTube viewer activity tab stopped working and it worked fine for the other 3 sections. So I was relying on it for the 4th section. And I'm so sorry for.
Oh, you've lost the donation.
I've
Oh.
lost. The crit nature was the last one. According to Bill Zoid, the root cause of the failing is cash. I don't know why that one is still up there, but it's still up there. I don't know.
Maybe that was the
YouTube
top
broke one.
donation.
Thank you.
He's refreshed it.
I refreshed the page, chat.
It's not.
Oh.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. Oh, thank goodness. Jonathan Biggs listening to me flub the line. Thank you, Jonathan Biggs.
Oh, was he the one who posted pee pee poo poo?
I don't know. We also got one for Ryan, which is I want to hear Ryan say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Tune in next time.
That was $5.
You were just going to say no.
Denvera1G1 says, thanks everyone. Of note, 4 earlier story connected cars collect and share speed, location, and cell interaction and road attention if the sensors are present. Yeah, people don't realize that the smart cars all talk to each other as well. So even if you've unplugged all of your telemetry, the telemetry is going to...
But we already have that.
no, not all. They don't necessarily talk to each other.
No, I'm saying what he's saying.
Oh, yeah. Genevieve Day says 404 chat not found. Thank you. Thank you. And that has been a Links with Friends live stream for the whole week.
Just watch it over and over.
Until you've memorized every section.
And thank you to if you subscribed on Patreon or Floatplane. Thank you
Yes.
very much for subscribing.
We got to do a
hanging out.
podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is time. It's past time.
June kind of got away from us, so we got to do one this month.
Oops. Well, thank you for hanging out. And this is going to take us out.
Bye.
Hang on.